What is going on, YouTube? It is Nickster28 here, and I am here to recap the 2019 NFL Divisional round of the playoffs, starting with the Colts taking on the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. Um, let's start with the Colts stats here. Andrew Luck was 19 of 36 on his passes, 203 yards and a touchdown. For the running game, they didn't get a whole lot, but Marlon Mack did rush for 46 yards on 9 carries, averaging 5.1, so that's decent. Receiving, T.Y. Hilton led the way on 10 targets. He caught 4 passes for 60 yards and a touchdown. Dontrell Inman caught all 4 of his targets for 55 yards. Eric Ebron caught 5 of his 9 targets for 51 yards. And then Chester Rogers caught 5 of his 6 targets for 30 yards. Defensively, Darius Leonard had 10 tackles and 4 assists and a tackle for loss. Clayton Geathers had 8 tackles and 2 assists. Kenny Moore had 8 tackles and 4 assists. And then as far as fumbles, Andrew Luck lost a fumble offensively, and Darius Leonard forced a fumble. As far as the kicking game goes, I want to mention this because Anna Vinatieri missed a field goal, which was a pretty close one. He missed a chip shot, and he also missed an extra point. So the kicking game did not go very well for the Colts. Let's go to the Chiefs stats. Patrick Mahomes passing was 27 for 41 for 278 yards, and he had 3 carries for 8 yards and a touchdown, so that's pretty impressive. Even though he didn't actually throw a touchdown, he rushed for one, so that's nice. Damian Williams had 25 carries, 125 yards, and a touchdown, and he averaged 5.2 a carry. Tyreek Hill had a 36-yard jet sweep touchdown, and then Darrell Williams had 3 carries, 9 yards, and a touchdown. Receiving, Travis Kelce had a huge game, catching 7 of his 10 targets for 108 yards. And then Tyreek Hill in the receiving game caught 8 passes out of his 13 targets for 72 yards. Sammy Watkins was targeted 13 times, had 6 catches for 63 yards. And then finally, Damian Williams receiving caught 5 of his 6 passes for 25 yards. Defensively and fumbles wise, Sammy Watkins lost a fumble. Offensively, D Ford forced a fumble, had 4 tackles, a sack, and a tackle for loss. Chris Jones had 3 balls batted down. Justin Houston had 2 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 TFLs. And then Anthony Hitchkins had 4 tackles and 3 assists. So overall, I'd say the Chiefs definitely played as well as they should have. They ended up winning 31-13 over the Colts. My pick was a little off, but not bad actually. I picked the Chiefs winning 35-28, and obviously they won 31-13, like I said. I think the Chiefs definitely played as well as they could have. Defensively they played great. They had a solid running game to keep the Colts honest, or they had a very good running game to keep the Colts honest. There was Damian Williams, and then an interesting stat to note here is that this is Kansas City's first AFC Championship appearance since 1993, since the 1993 season when Joe Montana was the quarterback. So that's really cool. As far as the Colts go, they're just outgunned by the Chiefs. The Chiefs were too strong in this game for them. They tried to stay in the game, they couldn't. Also, they had a blocked punt to score one of their 2 touchdowns in the game. So that was interesting. That was well played. Too bad the Colts couldn't make this a little bit more competitive, but they tried their hardest. Props to them for making it this far as a 6th seed. Great season for them. And I believe they'll be back next year. As far as the Chiefs, they will be advancing to the AFC Championship game. Next up is the Cowboys and the Rams at the LA Coliseum. The final score was 30-22. The Rams getting the victory. Let's start with the Cowboys stats here. Dak Prescott, 20 for 32, 266 yards and a touchdown. Zeke was limited for the most part, with 20 carries for 47 yards. He did have a touchdown, and then he averaged 2.4 yards a carry. Receiving, only a couple receivers to note here. Michael Gallup on 9 targets had he caught 6 of them for 119 yards, so a big game for Gallup. Amari Cooper had 9 targets. He caught 6 of them for 65 yards and a touchdown. Defensively, Woozier had 6 tackles. He did struggle, though, at times, even though he led the team in tackles. Jalen Smith also had 6 tackles, so he was tied with Woozier, and he had 3 assists. And then Xavier Woods, 5 tackles and 3 assists, and they had no sacks. No sacks at all. That was a surprise for the Cowboys defense. And then for the Rams, Jared Goff was 15 for 28, 186 yards. The running game was very surprising. C.J. Anderson had 23 carries, 103 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What a game for him. Todd Gurley had 16 carries, 115 yards, and a touchdown. That's pretty status quo for him. And also Robert Woods, Josh Reynolds, Brandon Cooks, and Jared Goff all chipped in the running game. They got the receivers involved and the quarterback, so that was pretty awesome. As far as the receiving game, Robert Woods had 6 catches for 69 yards on 8 targets. Brandon Cooks, 4 catches for 65 yards on 6 targets. And defensively, Aqib Talib had 5 tackles, 2 assists, and a forced fumble. Corey Littleton, 5 tackles, 2 assists, and a TFL. Ndamukong Suh, 3 tackles, 1 assist, and a TFL, not a CFL. My bad. Aaron Donald had 2 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. So overall, biggest takeaway in this game was the Rams' 273 rushing yards combined for both their running backs, which is the most in Rams history. Well, that's total. They had a total of 273 rushing yards. Combined for both running backs, they did have over 200 yards with Anderson and Gurley. And overall, I was very impressed with C.J. Anderson. He was just pulling over guys on the Cowboys defense. They really had a hard time stopping him. And picking up Anderson was a huge pickup for the Rams, bigger than I would have imagined. I thought definitely he would play a factor when the Rams picked him up. And also the fact that he's played for several teams this year. And that he, that was interesting to note. And he's been cut and finally got his opportunity with the Rams this year, and he made the most of it. And also, Todd Gurley had a huge game as well. He's been injured lately. It was good to see him out there again performing. That was definitely the biggest takeaway. And overall, the Cowboys were very disappointing. They didn't have a single sack on defense. Dak Prescott missed some throws, and they just couldn't quite get it done. They came up a bit short. But overall, great season for the Cowboys. I'm sure they'll be back next year in the playoffs as well, just like the Colts, because they got a solid team there. As far as the Rams go, they're going to be moving on to the NFC Championship game. Alright, here's the most disappointing playoff game of them all. The Chargers and the Patriots. I'm going to just quickly go through this one because there's really not that much to say about this game. The Chargers were disappointing and the Patriots shocked everybody. That's pretty much it. Phillip Rivers got most of his yards in garbage time. He was 25 for 51, 335 yards, touchdown, a pick. Melvin Gordon did not have a good game at all. 9 carries, 15 yards, a touchdown, average 1.7. Receiving, Tyrell Williams, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams chipped in. 5 catches, 94 yards for Williams. 2 catches, 75 yards, a touchdown for Allen. 5 catches, 65 yards for Williams. And then Gates chipped in with 5 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown. Virgil Green had a 1-yard touchdown. Let's see, Des King fumbled. And defensively, Allen led the team with tackles, 7 tackles, 5 assists, and a TFL. As far as the Patriots go, there's 3 key stats that I need to tell you guys. They had the ball for 38 minutes and 20 seconds, 598 total yards of offense, and they converted 50% of the time on third downs. My God, Chargers defense. What are you doing? What were you doing? Excuse me, my gosh, what were they doing? Brady, 34 for 44 passing, 343 yards, touchdown. Sony Michel, where did this come from, guys? Where did this come from, folks? 24 yards, or 24, not 24 yards, 24 carries, 129 yards, and 3 touchdowns, averaging 5.4 a carry. Julian Edelman feasted, 13 targets, caught 9 of them for 151 yards. James White was targeted 17 times. He caught 15 balls for 97 yards. And then Philip Dorsett, 4 catches for 41 yards, touchdown, and then 5 tackles. I keep screwing up. 5 targets for Dorsett. He caught 4 of them, 41 yards, and a touchdown. Oh, my bad. I keep getting stats confused. And then defensively, Stephon Gilmore had an interception, 2 balls batted down, and a tackle. Jason and Devin McCourty both had 5 tackles. So a couple more things I gotta mention about this, and then I can get done with talking about this agonizing 41-28 game in which the Patriots won. Oof. My pick was way off. All right, it was way off. The 2 things I want to mention: the running game was absurd for the Patriots. Did not expect 3 touchdowns and 129 yards for Sony Michel. And why the heck were the Chargers playing a zone defense most of this game against Tom Brady? He just absolutely ate that up. He's done that in the past. Just horrible defense by the Chargers. Absolutely pathetic. They were down 35-7 at half. They were down by 4 touchdowns. So pretty much game was over at halftime. Let's just say that. And yeah, 8 consecutive AFC Championship games for the Patriots now. LA Chargers, or should I say San Diego Chargers, you blew it. And for the final game of the recap, we have the Eagles taking on the Saints in a really good battle here. It was a lot closer than the last game, it being 20-14, Saints getting the victory. Let's take a look at the stats. Nick Foles was 18 for 31, 201 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. Wendell Smallwood rushed for 33 yards on 10 carries. Receiving, Alshon Jeffrey, 5 catches for 63 yards on 8 targets. Zach Ertz, 5 catches, 50 yards on 8 targets. And Jordan Matthews had a 37-yard touchdown that was thrown by Nick Foles to him. Defensively, we had a lot of tackles by the Eagles defense. Malcolm Jenkins with 8, 2 assists, 2 TFLs. Savonte Maddox, 6 tackles, 2 assists. Jordan Hicks, 6 tackles, 3 assists. Dre Sullivan, 5 tackles. Nigel Bradham, 5 tackles, 5 assists. And then Michael Bennett had 3 tackles, a tackle for loss. Cravion LeBlanc, 2 tackles, assists, and an INT. And then Brandon Graham, 2 tackles, 1 assist, a sack, and a forced fumble. So lots of defense there from the Eagles. As far as the Saints go, Drew Brees, 28 for 38, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, which was by Cravon LeBlanc, which I mentioned. That was early on in the game. Rushing, Alvin Kamara was 16 for 71, 4.4 yards averaged. Mark Ingram, 9 carries, 53 yards, 5.9 yards averaged. Taysom Hill also chipped in with 8 yards rushing, and he blocked on several plays. Receiving, Michael Thomas had a huge game. 16 targets, 12 catches, 171 yards, and a touchdown. Ted Ginn, 3 catches, 44 yards on 7 targets. Alvin Kamara caught all of his targets, all 4 of them for 35 yards. And then this undrafted guy I've never heard of before, Keith Kirkwood, caught both of his targets for 8 yards, and he scored a touchdown. Defensively, Marshawn Lattimore balled out. He had 2 picks off of Nick Foles, 5 tackles, 3 assists, 2 balls batted down. Cam Jordan had 3 tackles, and so did Eli Apple. So this game was quite a game. The Eagles started out hot. They scored 14 points in the first quarter. They were up 2 touchdowns, and then the Saints started to move the ball a little bit. And finally, in the second half, the Saints running game started to go. Alvin Kamara was starting to break off some big runs. So was Ingram, and the Saints were off and running from there. They cut the deficit to 14-10 at halftime, and then they kicked the field goal, and they got a big touchdown. And then from there, the Eagles on their final drive, they had a chance to win, but ball went through Nick Foles' hands and was intercepted by Marshawn Lattimore. So unfortunately for the Eagles, they fell short in this one. This was not just Jeffrey's fault for letting the pass go through his hands. That wasn't the only reason why they lost. They could have done a bit more the rest of the game besides the first quarter. But yeah, I got to give credit to the Saints defense here. They played very well against the Eagles. Defensively, this was a very well played game in general. Also, I want to mention Taysom Hill actually did play pretty well too in this game. With the opportunities he did get. There was a holding call that took away a nice touchdown pass he had. It was really cool. Missed that. They missed out on that opportunity. But overall, nice job by the Saints taking down the defending champs. The 14-point comeback was the largest in Saints franchise history. And because of that, the Saints will be moving on to take on the Rams in the NFC Championship game, and the AFC Championship game will be the Chiefs and the Patriots. And I will be back. I'll be back tomorrow to recap those 2 games. Not recap. I messed up again. I will be back tomorrow to preview the AFC and NFC Championship games. Hopefully you all enjoyed this recap of the divisional round, and I will see you all in that video. Bye, guys.